go over the shelter in place ordinance and the other issues that are listed on the other recommendations that are listed on the back. But I think that we also discussed a declaration, an emergency declaration. Do we need to open the agenda to 2/3 that on, or can she read it because it goes with this, or? Yeah, because it goes, so if the attorney could read that
Okay, Ms. Whitehouse.
declaration, thank you. I could read it, I have it. You want to read it? Okay.
Ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, an unincorporated tribe. Ordinance of the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe adopting a temporary emergency declaration health order. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe adopted its constitution and bylaws by referendum vote on December 14th, 1935, in accordance with Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, 25 U.S.C. Section 5123, and under Article 3 of the Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council is the governing body of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And whereas, pursuant to the Constitution and bylaws of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council exercises legislative powers to enact and promulgate resolutions and ordinances. And whereas Article 4, Sections 1F, 1K, 1M, and 1W empower the Tribal Council to manage the economic affairs of the tribe, protect and promoting the health and general welfare of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and its membership. Whereas the Tribal Council adopted Resolution number 20-70, affirming President Bear Runner's declaration of a state of emergency on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation due to the novel coronavirus named SARS-CoV-2 and the disease it causes, coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. And whereas the Tribal Council recognizes that Indian tribes and reservations are among the most vulnerable populations and locations for this COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas in light of the extraordinary threat posed by COVID-19, the Oglala Sioux Tribe must take extraordinary measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19, and whereas the Tribal Council has determined that it is in the best interests of the health and welfare of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and the Oglala Lakota Oyate to adopt this temporary emergency declaration health order. Now therefore be it ordained, the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe hereby adopts the temporary emergency declaration health order as set forth below. Temporary emergency declaration health order. 1. Curfew. A curfew shall exist for the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. A. This curfew shall not apply to travel to and from work, healthcare purposes, and or law enforcement purposes. B. All individuals are encouraged to avoid unnecessary travel during non-curfew hours and to practice social distancing to the greatest extent possible. 2. Business practices. All businesses and tribal programs shall modify their business practices to limit person-to-person contact to the greatest extent possible. 3. Public gatherings. A. There shall be no public gatherings of crowds larger than 10 people. B. Law enforcement shall be permitted to disperse any crowd larger than 10 people in a public place. C. Public gatherings do not include regular business or tribal government functions. 4. Social distancing requirements. Social distancing requirements includes the following. A, maintaining at least 6 feet distance away from other individuals. B, washing hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as frequently as possible or using hand sanitizer. C, covering coughs or sneezes into the sleeve or elbow. D, regularly cleaning high-touch surfaces. And E, not shaking hands. 5, effective date. This ordinance shall become effective at 12:01 a.m. on March. It shall become effective immediately and will continue to be in effect until it is rescinded by tribal council action. If the tribal council does not take any action, then it shall expire in 30 days. Be it further ordained that this ordinance shall take effect immediately and shall supersede, repeal, and replace all prior inconsistent laws of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Certification.
Tom?
Yes, right away.
After all our discussion and executive, I think that there's a couple of things that need to be added. Under number 2, that all travel off the reservation by tribal personnel, elected officials, executive board, or political appointees shall be stopped for the remainder of the declaration. And that's for off the reservation. And then I think under, where's the other one? 3C, public gatherings. Public gatherings do not include regular business, tribal government functions, or religious and spiritual activities. Is that okay, Philip? Okay. And with those changes, I'll make a motion to approve.
I have Makini, Tina, and Sonia. Oh, Makina, I'm sorry. Makina, I'm sorry, Ms. Mills.
It wouldn't be the first time. I would like to ask the speaker from the task force to just ask them if they feel like this would suffice. They came with recommendations, so I feel like we need to hear from somebody on the committee just to see if this is moving in the right direction as a task force.
Thank you, Council. I think this is moving in the right direction, but I also think that we also made the recommendation of closing the tribal programs, and I don't know if you guys discussed that or not. And will you be talking about that? Okay. And then under the update part, there was discussions. You know, there's people in the communities that want you guys to take aggressive action. So this is moving in the right direction, but I feel like, especially with not knowing who's positive out there, I think that council really needs to consider taking take some strong steps here. Don't be afraid to do that, because ultimately you're protecting our people. So I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Verdanian?
So the motion maker said declaration, but this says ordinance. So clarification, attorney, are we calling this a declaration?
Well, I can certainly modify it and change it to a resolution. That's not a problem. And I'd also like to read to you guys the language that I added, if that's all right. The new language, so I'm going to change this from an ordinance to a resolution. The new language will be in number 2. business practices. The new sentence shall read, all official travel off the reservation by tribal personnel, elected tribal officials, or political appointees shall be restricted. And then under item number 3C, adding the sentence, or I'm adding to the last sentence, the phrase, or religious or spiritual activities. And changing this to from a ordinance to a resolution.
Ms. Lillock?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I think maybe this will answer that, but I think Thursday we were, I think the president did read a letter from, I think it might have been from the burial program or but about wakes and funerals. So I'm thinking that just religious and spiritual activities, would that cover that, Jennifer? Because people are going to have wakes and they're going to have funerals. But what he was saying was that they're kind of recommending that you take your loved one from the funeral home to cemetery. Is that what that letter read on Thursday? Or your home, yes. So we need to maybe clarify that to our public because, you know, our public's going to have questions. So could we maybe, if I don't know if that part would cover that area, but we need to at least cover something because we know that's happening.
Mr. Yellowhawk?
You mean travel off the reservation, is that official travel? Yes. Okay. So for any employees, elected officials can't do all necessary travel for health, welfare for themselves and their families? Yes. Okay, thank you. I want clarification on that.
Mr. Greenwell?
I guess for the curfew part, that's the concern that I have. I know that our store stays open till 8 o'clock and you're imposing a curfew that starts right at 8 o'clock and, you know, and people traveling home after they finish up at the stores. And secondly, resolution is going to be a recommendation. It's not the law if it's not an ordinance. So basically what we're saying is we're recommending a curfew. And we're recommending these things, right? Okay.
Mr. Lillock?
So I need to maybe clarify what I just said, Jennifer. You were there when they read that letter from the, did that come from the burial program or the Sioux Funeral Home? It came from Sioux Funeral Home, they said. So we need to make sure that our people out there understand that when you lose a loved one, that's kind of what they're recommending you do. So does that need to, when we're saying 10 public gatherings in a public place, not to be 10 or more? I mean, we're going to get questioned about that. So I need to see how she's going to clarify that part of it. But at the same time, the Chief of Staff has a question about employees.
It was answered.
Was it answered? Okay, but I need clarification on that part.
Ms. Whitewood?
C, on number 3, public gatherings do not include regular business, tribal government functions, religious or spiritual activities. That should cover it.
Ms. Sears?
I
I think just reading this, and we're going to put this out there to the people, I think we need to at least put a clause in here that it in no way prohibits them from going to do their regular, going to the grocery store and things like that, because we're going to get those calls. We need to put that language in there because they're going to call us and say, it doesn't say we can't go to the store, or we got to put something in there, some kind of clause to clarify that.
I think we should also mention medical appointments. People be allowed, because I know I have an appointment Wednesday on my eyes. So, Ms. Whitehorse.
Nowhere in this ordinance or resolution does it restrict any type of traveling except for employees, elected officials, and political appointments. Nowhere in this resolution does it say that a person cannot drive to the store, or cannot go to the hospital, or cannot go to work. It doesn't say that at all in here. And for the employees, it's only official travel off the reservation that's restricted. It doesn't say they cannot go to a medical appointment, or that they cannot conduct other business, as long as it's official. And the reason that it's a resolution is because it's temporary, 30 days, or until we come up with a agreement on the shelter-in-place ordinance. So in the meantime, this is just a stepping stone to let people know that we are working on this. We are trying to come up with procedures, because at this point we have none. So this is just a start.
How about people coming too, like the other day? We don't want that either. This guy could
Chair.
train that circle.
Are you done, Ms. Whitehorse?
Yeah.
Mr. Gibbons?
Thank you. Ms. Cora, the travel, no travel beyond the reservation borders for all travel employees, elected officials, executive board members, and their staff. Let's do that separate after this one, because these are recommendations, and we need to learn to keep our behinds home. We don't need to be carriers of this disease, going out bringing it back. So if we do that separate, then we'll do that ordinance-wise, and these recommendations will stay, because if we put it in here, that's what they're going to be, as recommendations.
Okay, the reason that it should be in here and instead of just by motion is because we're working on an ordinance to cover that. And at this point, we don't have anything in place. And if we put it in the resolution, it's all included in this declaration. It's all included. And for the travel, it's just official business. Because we honestly cannot control, without making it criminal, people's personal travel. We can encourage them to not travel. We can encourage them to not go to Rapid City or Sioux Falls or Pierre or whatever. But at this point, it should be included in here, so that way people will know that we are looking at that. And that is what we have to put into the ordinance when we meet on Wednesday. And a resolution is, I guess, a recommendation. It's the intent of the council. The intent is to have people keep themselves safe. We already have a curfew ordinance. We already have curfew in the code, but we put it in here because our intent is to have people follow it. That's what we want. We want people to keep themselves safe.
So
with that, I made my motion.
So we're not going to be able to hold any of our executive board, our council people in their official capacities. We're not going to be able to hold accountable any tribal programs or charters from traveling in their official capacities. We just won't be able to do it.
Well, there's a motion on the floor, and what I'm understanding here is Wednesday is when you're going to be coming up with an ordinance to that effect. So I'll go ahead and recognize your motion, Ms. Whitehorse. Is that a second, Mr. Greenwald, or you have a question? Okay, Mr. Greenwald.
On their travel part too, I also like to put in there that no programs or us or any entities will also bring in people to our tribe, like what happened this week, to do presentations or anything during this emergency. So no bringing guest speakers, no bringing, outside people from off the reservation here to come and do a presentation. That includes all the programs and XB or everybody else. I'd like to have that added into that travel part.
I'll agree to that amendment.
Mr. Cross?
No, the attorney there really thought, really brought up something about being aggressive, and I know a lot of that language is probably in the ordinance already, everything that we're bringing up here, making amendments to this ordinance was in that previous one. It is, it has to, we have to be aggressive. I know some tribes are blocking their roads off, some reservations are really putting some roadblocks up to control who's coming in and who's going out. This is serious business here. And, and I know I read in there, I heard in there was that, 1 to 2 people in a car at the most, not in groups of more than that, because you're more vulnerable to that disease if you're going out to Rapid City or other places, so I agree we need to be aggressive, right from the start, and not phase into it, but to go under like that, so that's why I supported that ordinance, previous one, because and I hope whatever it is that we need to do, and I hate to come back to another council meeting next Monday or Tuesday, to pass this ordinance that's going to be dealt with the law and order, and because we're already putting ourselves at risk as it is today. So, and I think all it was just looking at the fines, If we could have took those out, I think we would have had a good ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Jumping Eagle.
You guys are bringing forth in this ordinance. Just took one simple passing of that ordinance, we would have been done.
We need to stick with that because maybe it'll deter them from doing unnecessary things. When we say a declaration, we should be a directive, not, oh, we recommend this. It shouldn't be like that. And we're here as a leadership. We're going to be bombarded if a positive comes back and we didn't address these harsh penalties in the first place. So, I agree with James. We can't take this lightly. We got to be proactive and to prevent. And I know it's going to hurt a lot of feelings. People are going to jump all over us. But with this, too, this little one-pager we got here, we got to make that to have the reader understand, because we are going to get calls. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, it doesn't say anything about whether we can go to the store or whether we can go to the hospital. We have to put that clause in there. In any way, it does not prohibit them from, going about duties, but follow these protocols here. But, myself, I really support what the recommendations that came back from that task force. And we had that opportunity to sit on there and do that work. And we had that time to go and sit in and hear this. That's why I said maybe we need a this leadership to be a part of that task force now, because when it does come to us, we're tearing it apart, we're saying, send it back here, send it back to the committee. That's wasting time. We don't got time. Something can happen. So we really need to address what we're telling our task force. We put that in place, put that on their laps, and I feel like they did a lot of work. So myself, I think that we're leaders here, and we got to understand that we can't take it lightly, because once it happens, and I'm not campaigning, you know, every time we address issues, it's funny. It shouldn't be like that, because this is serious. If it hits one of your family members, we come in here, oh, my family was affected. You know, we speak just on one person. We're here to talk for everybody throughout this reservation. So I'd appreciate that if we have some respect here. We're adults, and this is serious. Thank you.
Mr. Hawk.
Thank you. You know, at last week's council meeting at the Prairie Winds, we passed a public health emergency response for the task force, the emergency operation plan. And I had the opportunity to read it, and some of you were not at the council meeting that day. But we passed that day. So it's right here. I hope you had the opportunity to read it. They brought that. I actually was the one who made the motion to approve it. Today, I thought maybe the task force would come forward and talk to us about the employee part, because that's the main questions that we're getting is from the employees themselves. That's what I want to talk about. Second of all, I don't care how you look at it. Today, a lot of our people don't work. It's easy for us in this circle to talk, because you know what? We all get a paycheck. We can stay at home because we're scared of that virus. But guess what? We get a paycheck every 2 weeks. But our people out there, the Unshika ones, that don't get a paycheck, that don't get an income, we want to establish these laws so they could pay $250 every time they get caught. That's what I'm concerned about. And when our people are calling us and they got all these questions about this ordinance that was out there on Facebook, and bring it to my attention, bring it to the council's attention, of course we're going to have concerns. Some of us sat over there at the transportation office the day we met with President Bearrunner over the emergency in this and putting this task force together. Some of us were there. Some of us went to the council meeting Thursday. So I want the people to know that out there. We hear your concerns. We listen. Up to now, people are texting us, got questions about it. By God, I want to know what kind of laws we're going to pass, so when they're calling us, I know how to answer them. We tabled that ordinance because we said we're going to meet on it Wednesday. We're going to meet on it at the Justice Center. Every council member in this room is invited to come. Others are invited to come and listen, help us put it together. Nothing wrong with that. But today, we have the poorest county in the United States. People can't afford $250. Even for a traffic ticket, they come in here and they're mad. They have to pay a traffic ticket. So again, we're the lawmakers. And once we put these in place, then we expect people to implement those laws, but never get their input on anything. So I'll tell my people in Wakbamni District that I've been at the table. Some of this council has been. We've been working hard. And by God, if we get the coronavirus, then you know why? Because we care about our people. People put us in this office to work for them. That's what leadership is all about. You lead. You have to have the courage to do the things that need to get done for your people. So I can't sit back and just say, this isn't right, this is right. We got to make some good, sound decisions, like Mr. Yellowhawk said. So we tabled it. I don't want to confuse our people out there. I don't want to say that you can't leave this reservation without getting approval. Put things in simple terms for our people. It's easy for us, but it's not easy for our people. So if we're going to pass this resolution, then we need to pass it, or otherwise we move it to Wednesday's meeting and we can discuss it there. And we passed legislation. And I commend this task force because they've been working hard. And today they come forward. I want to hear what we're going to do about the employees. That's what I want to hear. Thank you.
I have Mr. Greenwald and Mr. Meeks, and then I'm going to give the floor to Rayanne Redall. Mr. Greenwald.
Thank you, Chair. You know, going over this and stuff and reading it, there's a lot of good things in here. But one of the problems is when we get in this circle, right as we get here in the morning, no, we need to move on. We need to move on. You know, I'm out of here by noon. I'm not staying here all day long. Over and over and over all day we heard that. Keep it to 3 minutes, keep it to 3 minutes. So you just want to shove something down our throats, and when we know that there's questions each one of us have in certain areas of this that we just want to talk about and sit down. So if you want to do an ordinance the right way, we had these people work on a good product. So what does that mean? Altogether, you sit down, slow your roll, man, and stay here all day long. Quit sitting there and say, I'm leaving. I'm leaving at noon. I'm not staying here all day I didn't come for this. If you really care about the people, on Wednesday, when we come, Rand, you guys will come, and we start at number 1, and we go to number 2, and we go to number 3, until we go through the whole damn thing. And we all agree that whatever it is at the end, finished product, is what we all agree is in the best interest of our people. If you don't want to be part of this, don't come. If all you're going to do is say, I'm leaving at noon, or I'm not sitting here all day, please don't come, because all you're doing is hindering stuff. Us that want to be here and want this to be a good finished product, we will stay until night, and we'll go to the next day if we have to, because we shouldn't hurry something if we want it done right. Thank you.
Mr. Meeks. Mr. Yellowhawk.
You know, this is a serious matter. No, we can't be playing games or anything. Be serious about it. You know, we all talk, we have our own opinions, but you have to arrive at one decision and stick with it for the best interest of our people. We're elected to provide services for them and do the right thing. And then for the council members, whoever feel like they're threatened, they're scared to come out to the public, you can stay home. The rest of us will carry on the business. You can appear telephonically, maybe. You know, that's been done before. So let's get together and get it done. And I think it is important that we do have a reasonable, sound decision when we get done. We talk about having checkpoints. We have a huge reservation with checkerboard. Have you thought about the people, the white ranchers living out there? They have people come in and out of here, transporting their products out. Right in the middle of our reservation, we are a checkerboard area. Have you taken consideration of that also? We have City of Martin, surrounded by reservation. We have no jurisdiction over that. They have a lot of people come and go. And here we are, we just banging our heads only dealing with our own people that elected us. We have quite a bit of jurisdiction out there that we don't have. We don't have criminal jurisdiction over non-Indians. We need to take an entire look at the whole reservation and the people in there. A lot of people come and go. While we restrict our persons from going out to getting groceries and so forth, working, non-Indians leave and transport everything. All these truckers coming through here. Have we talked about that? Did the task force address that? You know, think about it. So let's come together and get a sound judgment. These things are, I haven't got so many calls over the weekend regarding this sample ordinance that was put out. If they would have brought it to the committees, then it would be something that we all can agree and support it. Thank you.
Okay, Council, I'm gonna end discussion on this. I'm gonna run a motion, but before I do that, I'm gonna give the floor to Ms. Redow.
Thank you. I have a question on why you guys are not, what parts of the ordinance that you guys are not comfortable with, and all I've heard so far is that it's the fine. And so, you know, this is something that we can fix right now. And also, you know, Councilman Greenwald just sat here and said he'd be willing to sit here till however long it took to get these things in place. And you know, we're under a state of emergency. I don't know how to stress that. You know, our people are at risk. And right now, we don't even know who's positive out there because we haven't been able to test. So I'm going to plead with you guys today that you would dedicate yourself to go through this ordinance today, and whatever pieces that you don't like or you want out or you want changed, we can do that. We can do that today.
Can I say just one thing? Okay, I'm just gonna throw these statistics out there because we like data, right? So according to Christy Nome and her latest tweet, or let me grab it here real quick. This is what she states on, she put out a message. It says, this is from Perry Puyer posted this update as of this morning, 3/23/20. According to Governor Nome's projection, 30% of all South Dakotans will be infected with COVID-19, peaking in May or June. 80% of the infected will experience no symptoms to mild symptoms. The government will issue an executive order this afternoon. So then she talks about washing your hands and stuff. So thinking about that statistically, we have about between 19 and 20,000 tribal members on our reservation. 30% of that is 5,700. Out of that 5,700, there's that 80% is 4,560 individuals that will get infected, and they will either show mild or are no symptoms at all. That means that 1,140 of our tribal members will suffer. We don't have the capacity, and IHS stood in front of you guys today and told you they did 10 tests. 10 tests. There's over 1,000 done in South Dakota since this all started, and our reservation only did 10 tests. So the likelihood that this is already here is great. So I mean, I was talking to Councilwoman Weston a little bit ago, and she said Wednesday. We were going to go through this. We're all for that as well. But how come Wednesday? Can we do this tomorrow? Can we do a special here tomorrow? Why do we have to wait till Wednesday? I have a husband at home. First time I took him out of my house to Rapid City, and it was scary. I made him stay in the car most of the time. Last place I stopped to look for toilet paper, of all things, was Dollar General outside of town. Got in line, and there was this young lady standing in front of me, and she starts pretending to cough, achoo, you know. And her mother said, do you really think that's funny? And she said, I believe I am effing hilarious. And so it was a joke, and here I am with my husband sitting in the car. I get up to the line, and there's an individual at the checkout with coughing, having a coughing fit, runny nose, eyes are all red, everything else. And I said, are you serious? And he said, oh no, it's just allergies, it's just allergies. Those are essential supplies that I'm having to put in my car with my husband. So I'm on board with Ray, and I support the task force and all of this. If we cannot do it today, let's do it tomorrow. Thank you.
Ms. Lowhawk.
You know, again, you know, this governing body took action a few minutes ago to set up this meeting on Wednesday. I think we did it because that was Law and Order Committee Day. And I think we set it up so that we can meet with Finance Committee and anyone that wants to come and be a part of it. We want it to, and we can do it tomorrow too. It don't matter if this governing body wants to meet tomorrow, we can do that. We're setting it up. We want to set it up at the Justice Center so that we have more room and so we can sit down and look at this ordinance. So that's what we can do today. And maybe with the motion maker that tabled it, maybe that would be up to Mr. Laisbad if he wants to move it to tomorrow. That would be his call. But I think I have no problem with that. We can do that tomorrow. But I do want our people out there that are listening, the Oyate, that you can get onto the website, coronavirus.gov, covid19.gov. And when you get on that, it tells you everything that I think our everybody across this United States and other countries are talking about. The precautions, everything that you need to take is right there. And I know a lot of them don't have internet. A lot of them don't have computers. But people do have TV, and it's on there listening. So, you know, I don't want to make things complicated for our people. That's why I think tomorrow, if it's okay with the motion maker, if he wants to schedule it for tomorrow, I'm open to that. But that was the reason why we did it, was Wednesday's Law and Order Committee Day. So that's why I think he scheduled it for Wednesday. But we can, it doesn't matter. But I'm getting calls that people are saying, thank you, because we need more clarification on this ordinance. And I'm glad that Philip questioned that about the inipis, the ceremonies. Those are things they're questioning. Are we prohibited from having that? And no, they're not. So a lot of questions, Tribal Council, but I think we did clarify that. So it's up to Mr. Laisbad. Thank you.
I have Mr. Wilson, then I'll get to you, Mr. Laisbad. Mr. Wilson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I made the motion to adopt the ordinance to take effect, and in case if you, I don't care what channel you turn on, news station you turn on, radio you turn on, you know, and we sit there and we talk about we want to be proactive and keep the sick and the deaths to a minimum if God forbid if something like that happens here. And right now we're fortunate enough we don't believe anybody down here has it, but it's knocking on our doors. You know, we heard the attorney say what the Panhandle of Nebraska has done. They're restricting travel now. The city of Rapids shut down all the bars, restaurants, non-essential businesses. I'm sure many of the other cities are going to be following. And here we are going to put something off again until Wednesday with some questions. if there's something wrong with it right now that's so detrimental, let's fix it now and start and move forward and curb this. I don't want to see all of our grandpas and grandmas in the hospital and our kids in the hospital. I mean, our kids are all sitting at home now with no school because the schools are worried, you know, and they should be. The governor right now is doing another press conference again. Let's fix the ordinance today instead of tabling it 2 days and then going back to tribal council in a week. Look how fast this has escalated throughout our nation. It was in China and Europe for a long time, and then look how fast, once it hit the United States, how fast it blowed up overnight, you know. So if there's something in the ordinance that needs fixed, let's fix it, right? Because pretty much what we're doing is by this resolution, and this is just a figurative speech. Nobody's listening to it. I mean, I pulled into Pine Ridge at 8 o'clock this morning. There's more traffic this morning than there was on any other day. So nobody's staying at home right now. Let's put our foot down and say, come on, guys, let's curb this. Let's not make grandpa and grandma and our kids and everyone sick and expose them to, you know, the worst case scenarios. Look what's happening in Italy. You know, China, they say is finally coming back down, but it took them 4 months. But they shut everything. They was welding people in their apartment buildings. I mean, we don't want to do that, but if it needs fixed, let's fix it today, and let's take this serious. The rest of the country's trying to take it serious, and here we are going to laugh it off for another 3-4 days, and I guess that's where I'm coming from. I don't want to lose one person on this reservation because this body sat around and wanted to wait another week to enact anything for the better welfare of the whole reservation. Thank you.
I got Mr. Latham, and after that, I'm gonna give Mr. Eckerby the floor.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Well, I just sat down talking with the Law and Order Chair, and we're gonna do it Wednesday. We're not laughing this situation off because sometimes there comes a time when you look at the past, look at who we are. We've been through so much and we're still here. And this time right here, this moment right here, it's still circling us, around us. We didn't see no cases of coronavirus, someone catching it as of right now. So what we're doing is we're piecing the puzzle together, putting it together slowly so we can come up with a good plan. If we just jump to it, we miss something, we're gonna have to redo it again. So it's best to sit down, talk about it. So this will give each council person a time to read the ordinance or this resolution, to come back with their ideas. So that means Wednesday will be a good time. Thank you.
Mr. Eckerby.
Thank you, Council, Mr. President. I sit back in my office, was listening. I didn't get a chance to hear everything here, but, you know, like the other two presenters before me, I urge you as a council to pass this now. If you're hung up on the fine, take the fine out. We're not here to fine people. We're not here to jail people. We're here to protect people. You know, on those figures that the governor gave out this morning, 30% of South Dakota population is going to get the virus. That's 275,000 people in the state's going to get the virus. And I think that everything we can do to assist our communities with in-home confinement, we're not restricting everybody 24/7. You know, those people that are head of households or those people that can make it to the grocery store or get to things, but limit the number of travel in and out of the homes so that give us the chance to at least curb the spread across this reservation. You know, we're willing to put up electronic signs if we can get our hands on them on every border that comes in here to say, you know, there's something that's passed by the council that we're going to limit the traffic in and out of the reservation. We're not saying put up roadblocks, but give us some teeth working with emergency management and other tribal programs to protect our people. And if you're hung up on the fine, take it out. I'm not worried about the fine. I'm worried about the people. It's just simply every day that we wait is the opportunity for more people to get sick. Rapid City Monument Healthcare has 68 ventilators. 68 ventilators for a population of 250,000 people in this area. Do you think our people is going to get a priority towards any of those ventilators? You know, Indian Health Service sent 10 tests to the state lab. I'm not saying that it's here, but give us a fighting chance to at least slow it down. And I urge you, as a governing body, we're not saying stop NEPs, stop prayer, you know, all the things that go on to help our people. I'm a believer in that. Use those ways to help our people to fight this off. But at least give us an opportunity to slow down the vehicular traffic, the foot traffic, everything of people that may have the virus from spreading it to other members of their families across the reservation. So I plead with you and urge you to take immediate action to move forward this thing, because every day is a day lost for our people. And I just wanted to comment on that, and you know, just listen to your group. You've had a good committee working on this, put a lot of hours in, and if there's some of the things you don't like, take it out and move forward to give us some opportunity to slow this thing down. And with that, just want to thank you all, and again, urge you to move forward with it. Thank you.
Mr. Jumping Eagle.
So, you know, thank you, Bob, for sharing that with us. You know, when I spoke up after James, I was told it's a moot issue because it was tabled. So we're not going to get nowhere here today. I want a motion to adjourn.
I have Mr. Verdanian, and then Mr. Meeks, you had your hand up. Okay, Mr. Verdanian, you have the floor.
I was just going to remind council, we have a motion on the floor with a second, so I think we need to run that motion.
Yeah, we do have a motion on the floor already. I did get the motion. Cora, did you get a second on that? Your motion?
Jim Meeks.
Jim, did you second Cora's motion? Huh?
Jim.
What's he saying? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Whitehorse, second by Mr. Apple. We found it.
That's mine.
Oh, roll call. Oh, we have our lawyer want to share a few words before I run the motion.
I just want to read to you the new language that you requested to make sure this is what you want. The new language, since the last one I read to you, in number 2, after the all official travel off of the reservation by tribal personnel, elected tribal officials, or political appointees shall be restricted. The additional sentence is going to read, tribal programs, tribal offices, tribal council, executive committee, and tribal charters shall postpone all upcoming in-person meetings with outside individuals or entities during the COVID-19 pandemic, or reschedule those meetings to be held by electronic or telephonic means. The next section would be a new number 5. A new number 5 that would say no limitation on personal travel. Nothing contained herein shall prohibit individuals from traveling to or from their home for any reason. However, all tribal members are encouraged to exercise social distancing requirements to the greatest extent possible.
Are you okay with that, Ms. Whitehorse? Okay, I'm going to run your motion. We have a motion by Ms. Whitehorse, second by Mr. Apple. Roll call.
Jim Meeks,
No.
Dwayne Yellowhawk,
Yes.
Garfield Apple,
Yes.
Glenn Gibbons,
Yes.
James Cross, Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Jackie Sears,
Oh, huh.
Vincent Tulance,
Yes.
Craig Dillon, Cora Whitehorse,
Yes.
Valerie Janice, Valentina Merdanian,
Oh, huh.
Ryan Jumping Eagle,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Chancey Wilson,
No.
Philip Goodcrow,
Yes.
Randy Laisbad,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald,
Yes.
Nikina Mills,
Yeah.
We have a vote of 16 yes, 3 no. Motion carried. And I do have another motion on the floor, but Mr. Gibbons, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I still want to run an ordinance for no travel. We can't seem to keep our butts home. We make a declaration and then we break our own declaration. Let's run this motion. I want to introduce the ordinance, no travel.
Mr. Greenwald.
So Chair, what we passed was recommendations. Can you have the secretary get that on the website and get that to Keely Radio and everything? So they could announce that these are recommendations until such time we meet on Wednesday, and these are passed after that by tribal council, this ordinance. So we need to get the resolution out to the public so they understand that these are recommendations at this point. The curfew, the no travel, taking precautions, all that stuff. And then on Wednesday, we're going to meet on the ordinance, so they need to know what we're doing. Okay?
Mr. Gibbons, I do hear your motion on the ordinance, but we do have a motion on the floor before you made the ordinance, and I have Ms. Janice. Ms. Janice, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, the task force brought forth their first recommendation, the number one for the 30-day layoff for the non-essential employees. And I think what we were concerned about was 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, and we wanted Dean here to explain the number one, also with the chief of staff. So can we hear them and maybe do that one recommendation today?
Are you done, Ms. Janice? I have Ms. Mills.
Thank you. We also have the ordinance. I don't know if you guys want to move this to Wednesday too. Adopting the procedures for tribal council meeting during an emergency declaration. So I don't know if you guys wanted to vote on that today or wait till Wednesday.
I know we have. Council, we do have a motion on the floor by Mr. Jumping Eagle, second by Mr. Meeks. Before we put any other motions on the floor, I have to recognize that motion. before any other motion came to the floor, that motion needs to, we need to run it.
The motion is to adjourn.
I know we do have 2 or 3 agenda items left on the agenda, but I do need to recognize that motion. Yeah, Mr. Jumping Eagle made a motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Meeks. So I'm going to run the vote. Roll call.
Jim Meeks,
Yes.
Dwayne Yellowhawk,
Yes.
Garfield Apple,
Yes.
Glenn Gibbons,
No.
James Cross, Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Yeah.
Jackie Sears,
Yeah.
Vincent Tulance,
No.
Craig Dillon, Cora Whitehorse,
No.
Valerie Janice,
No.
Valentina Merdanian,
Yeah.
Ryan Jumping Eagle,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
No.
Chancey Wilson,
No.
Philip Goodcrow,
Yes.
Randy Laisbad,
No.
Richard Greenwald,
No.
Nikina Mills,
Yeah.
We have a vote of 5 yes, 14 no. Motion failed. Mr. Jumping Eagle, you had your hand up.
Okay, so I just for the record, for our listeners, the reason why I motioned to adjourn is because it sounds like everything's being pushed to Wednesday. You know, they said, well, let's act on this ordinance about our committee meetings. We're showing, if we act on the ordinance of our committee meetings today, we're showing that we care more for ourselves and our people on the other ordinance. I just want to recognize that. Make that known for the record, and that's why I motioned to adjourn, is because we're not getting anywhere. Everything's pushed to Wednesday. Thank you.
Mr. Little Hawk.
I don't think that we are doing that. I think we still have some business that we need to take care of. But I think at the same time, you know, district member said, you know, the ordinance has to be clarified down to the last line. It's getting everyone scared to travel. What if there is an emergency and they are unable to go to the hospital because of the $250 fine? I mean, no matter how you look at it, the people are going to still have questions. And so what we're saying is that we need to sit down and we need to make a good sound decision on this ordinance. That's what we did today. And we have a right as a council governing body. When we need to table something, we table it. And, you know, we can't look at it that way. We still got business on this agenda, President. Now that that motion failed, I think we need to move on with business and finish up this agenda. We got this task force that wants to present to us, and we still have the letters that we need to pass for the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board. We need to get those done. So we're included in that stimulus package that our people keep calling us about. So business still needs to move on, you know, and no matter how you look at it, we'll deal with it on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Little Hawk. Moving on. I know the task force was moved to Wednesday. So the next on the agenda is the Great Plains Tribal Chairman Health Board. I guess there's 3 letters that came with that. Ms. Janice?
I think what was moved to Wednesday from the task force report was the ordinance down here. So I think we could hear them out on number 1, which concerns our employees. So that's the reason why I asked for Cindy and Dean, because that was one of the issues, was they needed to verify us, to us, that the funding agencies were okay with it. So.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Janice, for verifying that. Mr. Cross? Okay. Ms. Sears?
Yeah, I think earlier we had IHS here, and I think we need to remember what they kind of stressed to us too, that this governing body can enact something to get sent to request testing kits, ventilators, supplies that they need at the hospital. So I think that's really important today, to pass some kind of resolution to get up to the higher ups, to DC, letting them know we need these things down here ASAP. So, okay, make that motion.
We have a motion by Ms. Sears, second by Mr. Greenwald. Ms. Littlehawk?
You know, I don't know if it was last Thursday that we were handed out this resolution. I don't know if this covers that, Jennifer, but was a resolution requesting federal resources to address the novel coronavirus disease, COVID-19 outbreak, and supporting requests for additional resources for Indian country. Would that be a part of that? For all that, I just wanted to throw that out there, but okay. Do you remember that?
Mr. Cross?
Can we get a point of order here? We're jumping all over the place, and we asked Dean to come down to give some clarification on what the chief of staff's recommending, and so can we get back to that? And
Can you just run the motion? Because I think we need to have that resolution ready before the end of the meeting.
Okay, I'm going to recognize that. Did I see your hand up, Mr. Greenwald?
Yeah, I was just going to recommend to the attorney when you're drafting it up, just making sure that we put in all the equipment that's going to be needed, and you could probably research what all equipment's going to be required, including caps, gowns, face guards, everything. Ventilators, you know, medications that they're low on, stuff like that. We'll just put everything in there.
Okay, I recognize Ms. Sears' motion. Who seconded that? Second by Mr. Greenwald. I'm going to run the motion. Roll call. And then we'll get to the task force.
After resolution. Jim Minks,
Yes.
Dwayne Yellowhawk, Garfield Apple,
Yes.
Glenn Gibbons,
Yes.
James Cross, Sonia Littlehawk Weston,
Huh?
Jackie Sears, Vincent Tulent, Craig Dillon,
Yes.
Cora Whitehorse,
Yes.
Valerie Janice,
Yes.
Valentina Merdanian,
Uh-huh.
Bo Little White Man, Chancey Wilson,
Yes.
Philip Goodcrow,
yes.
Randy Laisbad,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald,
Yes.
Nikina Mills.
We have a vote of 17 yes, 1 not voting. Motion carried. Task force? Or chief of staff, I think both of you are on, so.
I think I'm then designated as the person to speak on with the COVID-19 response task force. We had made 5 recommendations. The latter 4 are going to be discussed Wednesday during that meeting, but we would like a discussion regarding the recommendation number 1, an immediate 30-day closure of all tribal programs and reevaluate in 2 weeks. However, the following programs are identified as essential or critical and will continue to function during the shutdown. Ambulance service, Petuluta, Attorney General's office, burial, the Chief of Staff's office, Child Protection Services, CHR program, courts, corrections, public safety, district service centers, emergency management, emergency youth shelter, food distribution, FAO, media, communications, IT, motor fuels, native healing, native women's healthcare, roads department, rural water core line, rural water maintenance, security, solid waste, tribal education, veteran services, veteran shelters, and victim services. These programs have been identified as essential or critical, and what we did was they are meeting the basic needs of our people. We need water. We need our trash to be still picked up. We do still need medical assistance. There are going to be instances where we're going to need corrections and public safety, ambulance. All of these have been self-identified by the program director as being essential and critical. Within each of those programs, there are non-essential staff that the directors have identified as those individuals who will be released from their duties just to cut down on the impact of the possibility of spreading this virus. So I think, do you have anything that you guys want to add? Hold on, this is one of the task force met.
And these are just recommendations that we put down. And so we bring it back to you guys to go over this and make your decision on it too, who's essential and who's non-essential. So these are just recommendations. They're nothing set in stone. So, you know, you guys can take these, read them. If we have to vote on this now, or if you think something might be changed, or who do you guys think is essential and non-essential?
I think that everything that the Chief of Staff just read off, I think I would say that those are essential, if that's what she's saying, that are essential employees that do still need to be on, be working. I do know that a lot of us are getting the calls from employees themselves saying, why aren't you guys letting us go home? Why can't you give us this 30 days or like you did the casino? I mean, these are things thrown out at us as a council. So, I think that with that, I was looking at Dean, Mr. Patton's list from Thursday. He gave us a list of the essential and non-essential employees within the indirect cost programs. And I was just comparing them. I guess we need to compare them to what you have here. Make sure that they're the same essential ones that he had under that. Are they?
Yes.
Okay, so because it showed, I think altogether through Dean's list, he had about 91 employees that were non-essential. Those are the ones that you were gonna deal with by asking to be put on that leave. So I guess I wanted to make sure it was these 91. Is that what you have? Okay, so maybe it changed, but I just needed to put that out there because the letter from Dean, maybe you can go over that, Dean, the one he gave us.
And I could answer that right now. The list that I submitted to Tribal Council this week was employees under basically indirect cost. Okay, had nothing to do with the Chief of Staff's list. Those are, again, under indirect cost. I met with each supervisor or department head. Those are their recommendations to me of who was essential, non-essential. And meeting with each one of them, we sat down and I discussed it with them, how we come up with that. So that's basically my list only from indirect cost employees.
Dean, what happens, can you explain the process, what happens from this point on? Once the tribe says we're shut down,
right.
What does that mean to an employee? Start from the beginning to the end.
If the tribe decides to, I guess, shut the doors for whatever non-essential or essential employees, we realize there's going to be essential staff that's going to have to stay aboard, like Cindy's just mentioned with programs. What we are waiting for, what I'm waiting for is tribal council to make a decision on when is this effective. Once that's effective, then we will go with our non-essential and essential staff and say, okay, we got the ordinance or whatever from the tribal council. This is, you'll no longer report back to work until further notice. And is or isn't these employees going to get paid? From my understanding, yes, they will be paid if they are requested to stay home. I did pass out a letter earlier. It's from the Office of Management and Budget. And on item number 6, it's basically what I really wanted to look at was basically number 6, and it's expenditure of award funds for salaries and other project activities. And it's the letterhead is something like this, if you want to, okay. So what I did is I just highlighted the first paragraph. I'll read it out. It has awarding agencies may allow recipients to continue to charge salaries and benefits to currently active federal award consistent with the recipient organization's policy of paying salaries under unexpected or extraordinary circumstances from all funding sources. That language alone is very clear. What we did this morning, myself, Cindy, and in-house counsel sat down and met. We looked at our current policy that we have under administrative leave. So we determined, thought that would follow under administrative leave. So we already have a policy in place for that. I will read the administrative leave policy. It has administrative leave may be granted by the tribal president or his or her designee in the event of program-wide or department-wide emergencies, such as temporary power outages or environmental hazards affecting tribal programs or departments, or community-wide or reservation-wide emergencies. When we read that, we such as natural disasters, extreme weather conditions. Based on that, we thought that this here fits in there under administrative leave. So with that in mind, we thought, throwing it out there, that that's something that the president, working with probably tribal council to make that decision of, hey, this is, it's very clear it's an emergency. So just based on that and what I read earlier from OMB, we already have a policy in place. If the council elects to have programs stay home or certain individuals stay home, bottom line, we could charge those costs to the federal program. And as a backup, I'm always considering Department of Justice. They always are sticklers on everything. I also have a printout that I passed out from the Department of Justice earlier with Mr. Long, Bureau of Indian Affairs, is he's also sounding like he's following this same protocol here. I gave him the information so he could, and so be that it states, or nowhere in our internal policy of administrative leave does it state we have to use our annual or sick leave up first. It's just across the board, but administratively, we're going to look at each, like myself, each department upstairs so we make sure we still provide a service. Staggering employees up there or whatever we need to do to make sure we're still providing that service. And we do have a plan. I met with the staff this morning. So again, like I mentioned, I need to know what, and before I move forward, I need to know what their tribal council is going to accept or what they're going to do.
I have Cora, Craig, Richard, and Nakina, and Sonia. Cora.
Thank you. That's what we were worried about on Friday. We just wanted to make sure that that was clarified when we had that discussion in ENBD. So with that, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend the president to grant administrative leave for all non-essential personnel due to the COVID-19 emergency for 30 days and to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. But this is not part of my motion. That's my motion, but we just need to make sure that these essential programs are able to be kept open and operating.
Yes, and that's what visited with the chief of staff. That was our concern. Whether we have one or two individuals in there staggering somebody, we need to keep those crucial, critical programs available.
Dean. I got a question.
I have a list of council members. I'm going by this list. I know Corey just made a motion with the second. Was there a second on that? Second by Sonia. I do recognize the motion, the second, but I got a few council members. I'm going to go ahead and let them comment. And the next one would be Craig Dillon.
I like what Dean said, that he got a hold of the funding agencies. That was one of our biggest concerns, because we didn't want to send people home and have them not get paid, and then that be a disallowed cost if we paid them. So that's real important. And I think we got to realize that we have a lot of vulnerable employees that, you know, even after this epidemic or whatever you want to call it, crisis goes through, we have to look out for those people, because this is far from over yet. And if they are vulnerable and they feel they need to take leave, we should grant that to them. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah,
Green.
so just based on that, or excuse me, what I've read, you know, to me it's very clear with the recipient's organization's policy of paying salaries under unexpected or extraordinary circumstances. As I stated earlier, in our opinion, that falls under administrative policy that we already had in effect. It's nothing that to accommodate this letter that we approved right now. You know, we already had this in effect. And it goes on further. Our audits are delayed, so everything is pushed back to whenever. And this applies to essential, non-essential, temporary, whatever. We have that policy that affects everybody. Yeah.
Well, I do have Richard Greenwald. Okay. And then I have Nakina Mills.
On those employees that are essential, that what happens if they decide, I mean, I know you guys are in the works of having conversations with the essential and non-essential, but what about those employees that are essential that don't want to be here? And just to explain that process, and if it's the same admin leave process. And then also my next question is, people are asking me about hazard pay.
We don't have a hazard pay policy, for one thing. And again, at the administrative level, for employees who wish to stay home that are essential, what we're looking at also on that same level, that's why I mentioned earlier, it's a supervisory thing that we're gonna have to look at, you know, because we also realize that a lot of employees are afraid to come to work. So at the same time, as a supervisor administratively, I'm gonna look at that to see how critical do you need to be here? Or do I need you here? Or do I need you here to come in once or at least twice a week to at least get your paperwork, go back, sign it, bring it back, or something like that? So as I mentioned, that's something administrative that we need to take care of, and which we will.
Excuse me, but I have Mr. Little White Man and then Glenn Gibbons. You had your hand up, Mr. Little White Man.
Yes. On your list of programs here that are essential, critical service, wouldn't water and sewer be a part of that?
Yeah, no, it's not on my list. It's on. It should be on Cindy's.
He knows he's ready. He already has a plan.
So with that said, I see y'all in 30, huh? No, just kidding.
Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Chair. I like this. I got faith in our chief of staff and Mr. Dean. They're going to take care of our employees. But I do have a problem with recommend to the president. I think it should be a directive to the president because we have troubles hearing recommendations. So if Cora, if you would change that to directive, that would be awesome.
I don't like playing this game. My motion was to recommend. And out of respect for us, he should do it. We shouldn't have to direct him because he knows the situation. And this game gets old.
Sonia, I'll recognize your hand, and after this, I'm going to end discussion on this, and I'm going to run this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I guess, is that motion, Cora, is that going to be effective when? This motion you're making? And I'm glad you clarified the annual leave and sick leave, that they're not going to take that because this is an emergency, so they won't be taking their annual or sick leave.
And keep in mind, this is under the administrative leave policy in our personnel policies and procedures manual.
Okay,
That's
but I
where
do
it's
want
at.
to see Mr. Patton in his office every day.
Okay, I'm going to run this motion. We have a motion by Ms. Whitehorse and a second. With that,
Jim Meeks,
Yeah.
Dwayne Yellowhawk,
Yes.
Garfield Apple,
Yes.
Glenn Gibbons,
Yes.
James Cross, Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Jackie Sears,
Oh, ha.
Vincent Tulance,
Yes.
Craig Dillon,
Yes.
Cora Whitehorse,
Yes.
Valerie Janice,
Yes.
Valentina Merdanian, Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Chancey Wilson,
Yes.
Philip Goodcrow,
Huh.
we have a vote of 17 yes, 1 not voting, motion carried. I have Sonia, Tina, and Cora. Ms. Wilhawk.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I also want to, maybe at this time, we need to make a motion. We just got done with the federal programs, and I think that I'd like to make a motion for the essential. So I'd like to make that motion.
I have a motion by Ms. Littlehawk, second by Mr. Greenwald. Before I run that motion, I have Tina and Cora, and I'll end it there and run the motion. Tina, Ms. Merdanian.
Yes, 2 things. First item, there's a microphone on. Okay, first item is that the process, I know that, I mean, through the telework, it should be agreed upon how the time is being submitted, and it's via, web-based, so no one should be using the fingerprint machine because of spreading virus. So we need to make sure that's clear to all getting that.
And we did address that the other day. I did visit with the payroll supervisor, so we have a plan in place. Again, waiting on what council was going to do with today's meeting.
Okay. Then my second thing is, and this is more towards emergency management, is that I think it's important we do an inventory, a detailed inventory of our resources, and that could be said for our programs as well. It's important we assess what we do have, so what we know what we do need. So that's another piece that's a part of this. Thank you. And if I need a motion, I'll motion that after Sonia's.
Ms. Whitehorse.
I was just going to ask if you could include, so they could include them all in or decide who's essential and non-essential.
Yes, I could do that, but I also want to include the general fund programs. They need to be included. Yeah, they need to be included in this, that's what Carla's saying, to include all the political, all employees, they need to submit a list like you did with their essential and non-essential to Cindy's office as soon as possible, maybe by today. And, but also include in the general fund programs because we have them also. That'd be my motion.
I recognize your motion, Ms. Little Hawk. Do we have a second on that? You'll second, Mr. Greenwald. Second by Mr. Greenwald. And once again, before I run this motion, on the motion. After. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Ms. Little Hawk, second by Mr. Greenwald. Greenwald, roll call vote.
Jim Minks,
Yes.
Dwayne Yellowhawk,
Yes.
Garfield Apple,
Yes.
Glenn Gibbons,
Yes.
James Cross, Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Jackie Sears,
Oh, huh.
Vincent Tulance,
Yes.
Craig Dillon,
Yes.
Cora Whitehorse,
Yes.
Valerie Janice,
Yes.
Valentina Merdanian,
Oh, huh.
Bo Little White Man, Chancey Wilson,
Yes.
Philip Goodcrow,
We have a vote of 16 yes, 2 not voting. Motion carried. Mr. Patton?
Yes, Tribal Council, standing here, and something popped in my head here that I think I need to throw out there, is we also have essential staff that we have labeled essential that have underlying medical conditions that we do not actually want them working. So what we're going to probably do is, even though they're labeled non-essential, we're going to go out and say, your underlying no medical conditions that just we don't want to come to work. So just letting the council know that.
I want to speak on that as well because we do have people in this category that want to stay. And so they do want to stay. They want to take care of their people. And so just so you know that, they do want to stay.
Mr. Gibbons?
They do have technology capability, Miss Cindy, to work from home, or they could set that up for them? Yes. Awesome, awesome, thank you.
Ms. Mills?
I guess now that brings up another legal, I mean, how does that work legally if they choose to stay and with the health conditions that they have?
Rayanne's working on the waiver.
Thank you.
Mr. Greenwald?
All right, so in this task force is any money or anything, but the superintendent asked us like a week or so ago, and we asked the president to put a budget together. That was never done. He was supposed to submit it to the BIA superintendent so they could look at some funding to help the tribe out with. So if the president's not going to do that, maybe Cindy and the emergency manager could come up with a budget for the $200,000 that they're asking for assistance for. If it's, and you could talk to the superintendent, like vehicles to help out with different things or whatever it is. Is it supplies? It's stuff like that. You could work with the superintendent, come up with a budget, and maybe present it back to us right away, and we could approve it. Maybe the president's, vice president's office could get a letter out requesting technical or financial assistance from the citizens. So we need to get that letter to them right away. So that would be my motion. Is
We have a motion by Mr. Greenwald, second by Ms. Little Hawk and Mrs. Merdanian. Roll call. Yes, Ms. Whitehorse.
I just,
I didn't get anything from emergency management, so I don't know what they needed. But we're working on the, okay.
So can you guys get together on that one?
Thank you. That's all I wanted to, thank you.
Mr. Long, you have the floor.
We're having a conference call tomorrow, from what I was told. I haven't got the invite yet, but they're inviting the tribes to participate on this conference call too. So you folks might want to identify somebody. If President Barroner's not here, have somebody that can sit in on the conference call, and they're going to talk about this. Well, you're welcome to come to my office. I haven't got the invite yet, so I'll let you guys know on that group text. But you're welcome to sit in my office, or you can come here, but it's going to be at some point tomorrow.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Greenwald. I believe there was second by Ms. Littlehawk. Roll call.
Jim Minks? Dwayne Yellowhawk?
Yes.
Garfield Apple?
Yes.
Glenn Gibbons?
Yes.
James Cross?
Yes.
Craig Dillon?
Yes.
Cora Whitehorse? Yes. Valerie Janice?
Yes.
Valentina Merdanian?
Uh-huh.
Bo Little White Man?
Yes.
Chancey Wilson?
Yes.
Philip Goodcrow? Randy Laisbat?
Yes.
Richard Greenwald?
Yes.
Nakina Mills? Huh.
We have a vote of 16 yes, 2 not voting, motion carried. I have Mrs. Merdanian and then Ms. Whitehorse.
I'd like to make a motion that Lori of what we do have available, and then also this is going to impact the budget that we're applying for. And we also need to include internet access, equipment, things like that. We need to be cognizant of that, not just for our employees, but for our people across the reservation, like our students. We have many individuals that are out there that, cannot pay their bills. So we're asking for, we asked in EB&D for a waiver from these businesses to waive their bills, but they have to provide internet access to do their job if they're considered non-essential, but also for their children who have to get online to do their homework or attend classes. So it's important that we also look at technology as a part of this across the board.
I do recognize your motion. I have Ms. Whitehorse and Mrs. Sears. Do we have a second to that motion? Seconded by Valerie Janice and Mrs. Sears. Before I run the motion, I'll go ahead and hear Mrs. Whitehorse, and you had your hand up too, Ms. Sears? Okay. Ms. Whitehorse and then Ms. Sears, and I'll run the motion.
We discussed this last weekend, and the utilities director was supposed to bring us back information. Has anybody heard from him? Has he brought anything?
Friday. They should have went out and we took action Friday, remember here?
Yeah.
And we gave it to the utilities director to look into it. Look at it anyways for the budget. That's what I'm saying. Come to the Wednesday meeting then.
So I don't think it's premature. I think we're on the ball, especially.
And then in the telework agreement, it says that the tribe is not responsible to pay for internet. That would be the employee's responsibility.
But we have people out there that don't work for the tribe that are laid off, and they can't pay for their internet bill for their kids.
Microphone.
Sorry. So the rationale behind this is that we have a lot of people people out there who cannot afford because they've been laid off from their jobs. They're not under the tribe or tribal program. And so they still have to pay to make sure that their children are able to get online to do their education, have available across the reservation. Thank you.
Ms. Sears?
I think like Wakpamani, we are working on helping our community to put in a request if they need help. So that's just notice to the Wakpamani district members, but I don't know what the other districts are helping with. But also, Tina, when you talked about inventory for emergency management, I think we need to also include them to contact programs on what they can help with throughout this outbreak of, prevention and what we're dealing with. But I think programs.
I think that that action we took also, I was told that all Golden West is doing now is just setting up the hotspots. And it sounds like you could just drive up to those areas and get Wi-Fi. I don't think a lot of these homes that don't have internet access, a lot of them, and maybe that's a good thing, maybe we can have him do the inventory part of it, because some of these people don't have fiber to their homes. They're not going to be able to have it. So, that can be a part of that inventory. And then maybe there's some that do have fiber to their homes and can get Wi-Fi, but they have to look at that.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor, and excuse me, Council, did we get a second on that?
Yeah,
Oh, Valerie, okay. We have a motion by Mr. Merdanian, second by Mr. Denise. Roll call.
Jim Minks,
Yes.
Dwayne Yellowhawk.
Yes.
Garfield Apple,
Yes.
Glenn Gibbons,
Yes.
James Cross, Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Jackie Sears, Vincent Tulance,
Yes.
Craig Dillon, Bo Little White Man, Chancey Wilson, Philip Goodcrow,
Yes.
Randy Laysbed,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald,
Yes.
Nakia Mills,
Yes.
We have a vote of 16 yes, 2 not voting, motion carried. Mr. Gibbons.
Thank you, Chair. All of the other reservations have banned travel. We need to do it and mean it because we 20 to a certain age, we males are carriers. They have no symptoms, they have nothing of the virus, but they can carry the virus with them. And we need to minimize that. We talk about keeping our tribe safe, and yet we want to go out there into an infected area and then come back. My motion, Chair, is to ban all travel from public officials and from the political appointees, bringing that virus back with us. And it's only fair to the programs and everybody else we told not to travel. It's only fair to them. If we're the leadership, we need to lead by example to ban travel. That's my motion, Chair.
We have a motion by Mr. Gibbons, second by Mr. Dillon. Mr. Gibbons is, I have an eye appointment Wednesday in Rapid City. What about the medical
official capacities?
Okay.
Official capacities, right?
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion with the second. Roll call. And that's to ban all travel, to remind council. Is that right, Mr. Gibbons?
In their official capacities.
Capacity. Oh, we have Jennifer who wants to.
So is that ban all official travel from public officials, executive board, political appointees, and their staff in their official capacities. That's on reservation travel is fine, but the travel that you're banning is only off reservation?
Beyond our reservation borders.
Okay, so no, ban all off reservation travel to those individuals in their official capacities. Could you clarify everyone that's included in that?
Yeah, Ms. Jennifer,
Does
are
that
you ready?
include council also?
Elected officials and their staff. That's charters, programs, the whole deal. If we can include the charters, that the safety of the people is our concern. Their status really doesn't matter to me.
That's off reservation travel, and that would not include those off reservation programs. Are there So the question is regarding how those off-reservation programs will get their paperwork here.
I recognize the motion by Glenn, second by Craig, but I have Mr. Little Hawk, Mr. Meeks, Mr. Little Yellow Hawk. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to these three council members, and I'll end it there and run the vote. Ms. Little Hawk.
Yeah, I don't want to make it difficult. I understand what they're trying to do, but at the same time, I don't want the people out there to think we're not telling them that they can't travel to the store, because, you know, things like that. So I don't want to this only pertains to us, public officials, tribal council, the people in general. So I don't want this to get misinterpreted by our people today. This is only pertaining to us. Yeah, getting a travel check.
Mr. Meeks.
I think we're going too far, you know. If them two guys want to steal them, that's their business. Ain't nobody gonna tell me to stay home.
Mr. Yellow Hawk.
Yes, this is another, we're adding on and on and on. What's the difference between the one that we just passed with the resolution? This is an ordinance. Which is the ordinance? Cora, the one we ran, is this the same thing, or? Because it.
He wants a resolution or he wants an ordinance.
Why don't we say that then?
Well, I think I'm going to end discussion here. We're just bringing things back that were brought up before. I'm going to run this motion and we're going to move on. Roll call.
Jim Meeks,
Hell no.
Dwayne Yellowhawk,
No.
Garfield Apple,
No.
Glenn Gibbons,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Yeah.
Jackie Sears, Vincent, Valerie Janice? No. Valentina Merdanian? Bo Little White Man?
Yes.
Chancey Wilson?
Yes.
Philip Goodcrow?
Yes.
Randy Laisbad?
Yes.
Richard Greenwald?
Yes.
Nikina Mills?
Huh.
We have voted 10 yes, 7 no, 1 not voting. Motion carried. Okay, Council, we're moving on. And I'm almost sure we're done with Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board, 3 letters. Tribal Chairman's
Yeah,
Health Board, I think there was 3 letters.
yeah,
What's that?
Jennifer, do you have the ones ready for us?
Ms. Whitehorse.
So just for clarification, did we just pass an ordinance without actually having the ordinance?
It was recorded as a motion. It wasn't an ordinance. There was no ordinance presented to us, so it was a motion.
So there was no difference, Glenn.
We have a couple items left. I'm hoping we'll have patience. I'd like to just cease discussion and let's finish these items. You know, we keep going back and back to what we mentioned before. We spent mostly all day on that, Council. Mr. Little Hawk.
So I think at the beginning of our agenda, I brought up the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board out of that stimulus package. I think the Great Plains area. And so there were some letters that she did forward to all of us that we should maybe run on our letterhead and maybe pass those maybe by, yeah, so I think maybe Jennifer, our attorney, might have something ready for us on those. But I don't want the floor again, but I do want to mention something that was given to me earlier, just to quickly mention it. But we just was given this by one of, did say that tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m., the Mahbia Luta Tioshbaye will be bringing in the Chanupa at the Red Cloud Chambers for prayers tomorrow at 10 here. And she did say that everyone was welcome to come and be a part of it. So if you're in town, if you happen to come to the tribal building, then she's saying that their family's inviting all of us. Just wanted to announce that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Little Hawk. Ms. Whitehorse, did you have your hand?
To all public access. We have the forms down here. We just need to keep our staff upstairs safe.
I thought that was happening already, but there's a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Is that seconded by Craig?
Was it second? We have a motion by Ms. Whitehorse, second by Mr. Dillon. Roll call.
Jim Minks?
Yes.
James Cross? Sonia Little Hawk Weston?
Huh?
Jackie Sears?
Uh-huh.
Vincent Tulent?
Yes.
Craig Dillon? Cora Whitehorse?
Yes.
Valerie Janice?
Yes.
Valentina Merdanian,
Oh,
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Chancey Wilson,
Yes.
Philip Goodcrow.
Yes.
Randy Laisbad, Richard Greenwald, Nikena Mills,
Huh?
Four not voting, motion carried, and we only have 13 council members in this chamber right now.
we have 14.
Oh, do we? All right, Council, we're going to take a 5-minute break, okay, Council? And then maybe the other council members will return. 5-minute break, Council.